Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJLOU. It's been a pretty crazy last couple of games, a marathon, if you will, but now we're hitting our fourth game of the night, which is, of course, DFM going up against the Hawks. But before we look at these games and, of course, the teams that will be fighting in them, I, of course, have to introduce myself and my fellow caster from the land down under. I'm, of course, Midnight, joined by Formal, taking you through Detention FocusMe versus the Hawks.
Yeah, it's going to be hopefully an extension of the chaos that we've seen previously. Not traditional, not typical League of Legends, but they've been fun games nonetheless. And look, again, this is my introduction. Perfect introduction here. My 10 out of 10 stuck landing introduction here. But something people might should know, when Ewan and I get together, or Midnight and I get together, sorry, name drop, don't dox, please. Great things do tend to happen. So I'm excited to see what we can bring to this stream and broadcast.
Yeah, and the game that we get for our first formal should be an absolute banger. Detonation Focus Me coming into the summer split of 2021. It started off slow. They lost both games in week number one. They went 1-1 in week number two. Coming into week three, maybe they can go 2-0 in this week formal because we did just see them claim their first win of the night, leading them on a 2-3 scoreline. So it's looking up for what was meant to be the LJL's super team. They're finally getting the cogs working. They're finally actually working together as a five-man unit. And I'm really interested to see, does a team that, when you look at the Hawks, you might say they're a bit of a middle of the pack team, right? They're not doing brilliantly. They're also sitting at 2-3 score line. This is the game to me that says, are Detonation Focus Me good enough to reclaim their top area, those top spots for
Well,
themselves?
well, the thing for me though was coming into this, I did my research. I went onto Netflix, I watched Return of the King in preparation for the returning of gang here, and it's been looking pretty good. I was really impressed with the proactive positioning, vision, and plays that were being made through this, and also Arya kind of returning to form compared to what we saw during the first 2 weeks. Some of those Oriana plays not necessarily the Baron seal, although that was amazing, but I was almost more impressed with, the proactive mechanics of the flash forward shockwave in order to secure that last kill. That tells me it's a player who is on form right now with a bit of something to prove. And although I do think the Hawks might be a little better than what some people might rate them, this could be an example of wrong place, wrong time. And if they haven't fixed up their vision, their objective control issues coming into this game, from their last game and previous four as well, they might be in for a bit of struggle street.
Yeah, but talking about the Hawks, there are still some really good signs of life. And I think that comes from a mixture of the middle lane Dasher as well as a bit of the bot lane. Because Dasher coming into summer, there were a few questions about consistency. Dasher was often who could perform brilliantly, or it could look like a dumpster that's on fire. But this so far in the last 2 weeks, Dasher has actually looked pretty consistent. It may be a little less highs and a little less lows, but it's a lot less dumpster on fire and a lot more a consistent presence in that mid lane, which is super nice to see from the Hawks. And then I want to look at the bottom lane because I have a few questions here. Zenit is a brilliant center player, and we know that the Hawks love to prioritize this champion, and they've got a very good proactive playmaker of Corporal who loves, he loves a mixture of, you can bring the set out, they can bring the Rakan out. I think they had Thresh last week as well. So I'm very interested what's happening in this bottom lane. Are we going to see some weird shenanigans out of the drafting? Because I kind of hope Corporal and Zenit do something a bit more stock standard today.
I see I'm the opposite because, we got the two OCE casters. I want to see the OCE bot lane strats. We've hinted at that before with the Senna Lee Sin action going on. Bring that back. Embrace the chaos because I feel, especially if Detonation Focus Me is starting to feel themselves again and they're returning to form, you need to find ways to keep them off balance. And sometimes throwing in that little bit of chaos can be just that. Now, you're preaching about consistency, and that's sort of what we want to see from the Hawks. And to an extent, I agree. And I think against any other team, probably that's what you're going to be looking for. But if there's any game to sort of throw it all and risk it, there's a good reason for this to be to one, especially considering the fact that they did lose their game earlier today and was a little bit of a sort of comeback against them. You want to get that momentum back in your favor, mix it up again a bit, go for something a little bit different. And that's what I'm hoping to see from the Hawks. But, more likely than not, you're going to be right. They're going to play safe, conservative, traditional League of Legends. And when you're going up against one of the better teams, even if they might be in a quote-unquote slump, I don't always feel that's the right course of action.
So your plan for the Hawks here is just send it.
Yes. Send
Well,
it.
Just send it. That's the solution here. As we do get into pick and bans. Detention FocusMe, of course, on the blue against the Hawks in the red. Bans are already powered through here, as we get a little thumbs up. And it will be Eddie on the Renekton once again. And this might already spell a problem for the Hawks.
Yeah, that Renekton in that last game was definitely an issue, although you also had to look at the itemization against it. There was no health burn being itemized for it, and a lot of that had to do with the champions that were played. I do think that when we look at the Hawks, they should be able to sort of pick and itemize a little bit better against that Renekton. Granted, you know, for Appaman, it's going to be a bit of pressure right there because we already know Ebby is feeling himself in this series.
Yeah, give them the Renekton, see what they can pull off there. I'm very interested to see, do they bring out like a tank like an Ornn, or are they going to go for something a bit more of a duelist? I know the Aatrox has been a bit popular in the LJL recently, and of course the Forever Gnar, the Gwen. Finally, LJL teams are starting to recognize and feel comfortable locking in that Gwen. So that will likely go to Appaman in top lane. That will be a banger as second mid balance will come through. The other thing is, look at the bottom lane. It's already locked in, and I must say, I love the Hawks bottom lane. Corporal's got his Thresh, and Zenit has an Aphelios, which can just tear teams apart if given the time of day.
Yeah, what's interesting, though, about both these bot lanes as well is that it's going to be a very zone-heavy bot lane, I feel like, where positioning is going to mean everything. And this is going to be a real test for the Hawks as well, who are looking to improve upon that positioning, that zone control, which then would lead towards that objective control. So I do appreciate how they're looking to take on one of their potential weaknesses head-on in this draft already. Whether or not they're going to be able to execute it successfully, obviously will have a lot to do with those jungle lock-ins, which we're going to be waiting to see. No Diana, no Xin Zhao. I do feel that DFM has sort of recognized, hold on, if they get a proactive jungler right here, they can control that bot lane. So I almost suspect a second jungle ban as Gnar gets taken away. No, to actually a little bit of a surprise right there, considering the Renekton has already been locked in. Perhaps they're expecting the Alligator to be a bit of a flex.
Yeah, Arya is good enough that they could play the Renekton. So I think it's a matter of keeping the Renekton up there, not really allowing the flexible rotate to the mid lane, because if memory serves, Renekton doesn't really like the Gwen matchup. So removing that flexibility there. And final ban for them will be Dash's Twisted Fate. I do quite like that ban. It hurts the proactivity of the Hawks, which does, we saw that earlier. They do well in the early game, and then they can struggle a little bit when it comes to the mid game and that objective control. So the Twisted Fate would have been a good lock in there. And instead, the Hawks pondering their next move. What will they take? And the answer is going to be the Hecarim there for Tussle. Not what I was expecting, but I must say, I love to see it.
Yeah, it's kind of going with the sort of proactive style that I think they're looking to commit to, or at least we're hoping they're looking to commit to. I'm a little bit worried about the synergies in terms of, throwing in someone who could be quite dive heavy with a team that's already looking at zone control, at least on the bot side. But when you look at that top, the Hecarim Gwen synergy is nothing to scoff at. It does leave open the LeBlanc, though, which has been a popular pick throughout the evening. That's going to be going over to Arya, which does mean that Ebby will be taking the Renekton up top.
Yeah, that's not too surprising there. Arya is being forced to blind pick it, obviously. But Arya is good enough that they can, unless Dasha brings out the Morgana mid lane, the classic counter, which I do not expect Dasha to pull out tonight. No. As we're seeing Shaco Hobbit, I'm not going to get baited by this. Oh my god, yes! Steel has Shaco. Let's go!
Oh my goodness, let's go. You know what? We were expecting some spice. I thought it was going to be coming from the Hawk side, but keen to see how this plays out for DFM. Orianna, nice safe pick given the situation. You've got a couple ball delivery systems, but obviously that big one is going to be Zenit on that Hecarim right there. So we take one last look at our two completed teams right now, and obviously everyone's eyes is going to be sitting on Steel and that Shaco.
I love the Shaco lock-in here. Not necessarily because it works really well against the Hawks composition, but because of the mind games that you have to start taking into account. Is Shaco going to do that thing where he starts basically 3 buffs at the same time to get a little bit of a leash with the boxes? Is Shaco in your jungle? Is Shaco in your lane? Is it going to be, lethality Shaco, crit Shaco, AP Shaco, tank Shaco? Because screw you trying to kill the Shaco. There are so many ways that Steel can run this, and a player of Steel's caliber pulling this out The Hawks are going to have to spend the first 5 minutes of the game being paranoid and the next 20 minutes of it warding the hell out of DFM's jungle because you need to track that Shaco because if Shaco gets snowballing, I'm sorry, but you've made far too many mistakes at that point already.
Interesting though, because you can also make arguments about this pick being a bit more defensive minded one as well. Hecarim is one of those junglers who can look for those level 3, level 4 invades and really harass any of your sort of more jungle setups. But running into a Shaco where you never quite know A, where the champion is, or B, where a box trap might be being laid and set up right now, it's going to be so critical for Tussle if he's ever looking to invade that jungle to have that communication with Appaman, with Dasher. And when you sort of look at how map control has been a bit of an issue for the Hawks coming into this game, this Shaco pick, it gets even stronger and stronger because it plays right into this red side's weakness.
Yeah, well, let's find out has the secret strategy to deal with the Hawks. As we talked about, we know their vision isn't as good as it could be, and Shaco, Evelyn, these stealth assassins work perfectly into it. Let's find out. It is going to be a hail of blades on Steel's Shaco here. So more than likely going to be one of the physical base builds, but there is the possibility of a little bit of crit in there. So Steel feeling spicy to kick things off, and I think he might even get the double camp start for Shaco as
Yep.
well.
I mean, with everyone sitting down there, sort of not necessarily expecting that invade, but in preparation for it, yeah, Steel is definitely going to be the focus. I like how the traditional broadcast is sticking with this. Well, everyone knows when you see a Shaco get locked in, that's where your attention is going to be drawn. Compared that to the traditional line of scrimmage we see out of the Hawks, nothing crazy for them. I do sort of appreciate right now. I wanted them to bring the spice, but not anymore. Now you kind of want them to be a bit more conservative, play that more traditional game as Steel is going to get that double camp start. Always fun to watch as action in the bot lane before we really get going.
No.
Corporal needs to be quite careful here. Has to burn flash was ignited. Should be safe for now as Zenit throws a nice bit of damage back against the gang. Both supports taken quite low.
Yeah, but I think the big thing to note there is Unipon has cleanse, does not have any defensive summons as
Heavy.
Iggy.
Oh, that
Oh.
was a little spooky. Flash already burned on the top side, and if you're on the side of the Hawks right now, you're sort of, smirking a little bit, shaking your hands, licking your chops. If Tussle can get through this jungle fast, that's a potential gank early.
Yeah, but Tussle is on the Gromp. Steel has done. This is the third camp. This is the speed that the Shaco has in the early game. And now Shaco, with Steel in command, could look for a bottom lane gank. Gang is level 2 on the Nautilus. You could very easily get a flash Nautilus auto attack into a hook combo to try and lock down Zenit or Corporal if you're feeling juicy. There is no wards. Zenit
Oh,
goes
he's
for the
feeling
ward, but
very
is in a little bit
juicy.
of trouble there. There is no. Oh boy.
Zenit is gone at this stage. I
Oh.
loved the placement of the box on the lantern so it cannot be grabbed. Steel definitely knows what they're doing, and that is a fine first blood secured for DFM.
Yeah, and Steel was the recipient of the kill as well. This is phenomenal here. And now in mid lane.
Yeah, Dasher already getting a little bit abused right now. And the thing is, okay, yeah, maybe you're a camp and a half down after that, but you also got your team a kill in nearly a second as, Dasher was safe enough behind the tower. The response has to be Tussle in the top lane, but instead Tussle opted for that full clear despite the flash being burned from Ebby. There was just no gank there, so not enough time to set up a response play, and already things are looking very good for DFM.
Yeah, so this is Zenit. Zenit gets caught out. Now the lantern is available, but the flash from Zenit was weird. I am going to assume that was a misclick from Zenit there, because that flash does not make sense otherwise.
Yeah, maybe hoping for a reset in the bush, like a reset of the vision in the bush is what I'm getting at, and not really aware that the lantern had already been thrown kind of a little bit too close. Could have been a miscommunication, could have been a mispress. Either way, a very odd flash from Zenit with really secured that first blood and that first play going for DFM. Now, as things do look to calm down, yes, Tussle has sort of completed that first rotation of the jungle, but you're still a fair bit behind when it comes towards that momentum, looking mid lane for something, anything, but I don't think you're going to find much here, although Tussle got into the bush before the ward was able to spot them. Arya, though, just able to jump safely back.
Yeah, I think like you need to push the wave out here. And Tussle, I think you need to immediately start thinking, well, we need to keep the objective game up. Shaco's, I think, greatest strength is the fact that the champion can sort of be anywhere as a fight. A skirmish in the bottom lane. Corporal, though, does find a cannon minion for his hook's trouble. But I would love to see Tussle either start going bottom lane or start looking for that dragon. I think that's a really good place to start for the Hecarim here. Get the game online. Because if you just let the game play itself out, Steel is more than happy to go for a gank. And this could be a bait here.
This is very much a bait because you got Tussle coming up the lane, but not through the jungle. And as a result, it actually leads to the Hawks being a little bit disorganized. DFM deciding not to go for it as well. It was odd seeing Corporal and Zenit looking to force plays, each of them without flash when their opponents had it. DFM kind of sniffed that one out before it realistically got established. And right now, DFM, again, just looking one step ahead.
Yeah, and I think it could also be just worry about Steel. If Steel is just in the tri-bush waiting, that could be a serious problem. Taking a look at this jungle routing,
Ooh.
the speed of the Shaco was ridiculously fast. Hits bottom lane at 230. That's about a minute before your jungler is expected to be in the lane there. So it's a really good aggressive pathing from Steel here. And look at the pathing of Tussle on the other end. It wasn't too much in
Well,
mid
look at
lane.
mid lane right now because Dasher's in trouble. Has to burn flash to avoid that dredge line. Great rotation by Gang, and everywhere you look, it just feels like the Hawks are being pressured, except for possibly in the top lane. You have to remember, top lane did go well for Appaman, although getting rid of the flash really just makes that neutral. Should be worth noting, no flash taken on both the jungle and the top laner for the Hawks.
Yeah, why would you? Like, you
Yep, true.
don't need it in this case. Gwen
No.
loves that ignite for the kill pressure. Talking about kill pressure though, look at this mid lane here. Steel is once again lurking for a kill onto Dash, and no flash for the Orianna. Does have the teleport. This could be something. Just harassment.
Yeah, just a bit of targeted harassment. Steel reminding you that Shaco can come from anywhere at any time. Ocean Drake has spawned. Neither team really making any motion, though, in order to set up, consistent vision for it. In fact, both junglers kind of going to be forced to prioritize that top side of the map. I do expect one more rotation for Steel before they could be looking down. Their Tussle might use that time to instead gank the mid lane if Arya presses too far forward. Tussle, though, is spotted. Might try to force something here, but sunken cost fallacy is a thing, and Tussle should do the smart thing and back away. Nope, they're going to keep looking for a trade. Corporal's even rotated down the mid lane, but again, the Hawks kind of revealed their hand a bit too early.
I think what was going on there is Tussle and Dasher wanted to push in mid wave because LeBlanc doesn't have the greatest of wave clear, push around a turret, rotate to dragon. I think that was the play there because Dasher doesn't. I don't think Dasher's recalling now, but I don't really know what they can buy that's worthwhile. It doesn't upgrade to the boots. It's not really worth the full pressure, I don't think. So I would have really liked if that play turned into a play around the dragon. And I still think that is the Hawks' best chance in this situation here. Their bottom lane is being pushed into them, so there's a possibility of just, Corporal throwing at the lantern, pulling in the Hecarim, but instead, game just continues to play out as Apperman drops the Ignite onto Evie just to prove a point. I kind of love that, honestly.
I mean, I like it, but at the same token, when you have that teleport and ignite available, maybe you could be using that at the potential dragon fight, which does look to be eeping closer and closer towards. Evie still has their own teleport and can just go back to base and now join the fray, so it's good to shove that wave in and maybe give you a bit of space, but instead the pings are coming down around the Rift Herald, and that is where our lovely Shaco is. Steel actually going in after Appaman. Ebby's going to be able to rotate down. Nowhere to go except for deeper into enemy territory. Appaman doesn't have to worry about that LeBlanc and Nautilus just yet, as both Arya and Gang are making their way. Well, they're already here. It looks like Arya wants to get there for the kill, but Appaman will jump over the wall, so instead they give it over to Ebby, and a second kill goes over to DFM.
And Apperman just looked lost there. They were trying to secure vision around for a Rift Herald play, but instead Steel was there waiting for them, got into the fight, and then the flank coming in from Ebby's Renekton just meant that Apperman had really no choice. Either you definitely die to the Renekton because Renekton has enough crowd control to slow you for a Shaco box, which has enough ability to kill you, or you flee into the jungle and hope your team can rotate. And now Hawks are looking to try and pressure this. We've seen an Orianna steal an objective already today. Could be another one.
Well, the entire team of the Hawks are here right now, and they've gotten control over the Herald once more. Arya on the flank, looking for a way in to possibly get onto Dasher. The Herald will go down as we see an
Ooh.
engage from Gang actually straight onto Corporal. Arya is going to try and follow it up, and you got Ebby on the flank, ready to pounce on this back line. Meanwhile, back in the front line, Gang is holding his own as Ebby is forced to retreat. Corporal was taken quite low, but still did leave themselves vulnerable as Appleman teleports in, eats a bit of a couple body shots right there to keep his team nice and safe. No one dies at this exchange.
Yeah, a really odd fight here. Neither team really wanting to commit to it. We saw the TP from Apperman at the end of it there. But I think that the big thing to take away from this particular fight is the burnt summoner spells here. Gang did use it. Both of them, the Ignite from Steel was used as well, versus the Teleport from Apperman, the Ghost from Tussle. I believe that Zenit did use his summoner spell heal, as well as Corporal using both. So a lot was burnt in this engagement here. And I think the big thing is, one, where does Tussle drop this Herald? Because that kind of dictates where the play is worthwhile. And I think, honestly, looking at how this mid lane is panning out between Arya and Dasher, it might be worth dropping it mid lane soon just to get pressure and maybe some turret play gold into Dasher, because you really want this Orianna online as quickly as possible.
I mean, there's also the potential as well of that first Ocean Drake. Very unusual for me. Maybe this could be an LJL thing, but don't normally dragons go down before the first 10 minutes? Maybe that's an OCE thing, but a little bit surprised we haven't seen either team really contest for it, and that could be that extra objective control that the Hawks have been looking for, although at the moment they're looking more towards that top side right now where you do have Zenit, who has been kind of farming quite well against Ebby. The backup arrives as well. That's a lot of commitment up top, and instead of looking to return objectives, actually, if anything, DFM could be looking to bring their own pressure back up top. Do we see another scrap? None likely.
No, and it's because the lane swap has effectively happened here. The Hawks have decided to be proactive with that lane swap here. And part of it is the CS differential. There was a 30 CS difference between the two AD carries. And in this case, Zenit needs to get access to gold here. I think there's a possibility that you just drop Herald if you're feeling confident. Doesn't look like they are, but
Okay,
I like the idea.
but I like the idea as well, but I don't really know why DFM is looking to match it right now when they had that Ocean Drake there for free, essentially, with that three-man play up top. Usually in this situation, you kind of see the push and pull where one team prioritizes one half of the map and the other team takes advantage of the other. Instead, DFM is sending everyone back up top where there's no neutral objective to fight over. Yes, they saved that tower. In fact, they didn't even lose a plating, so I suppose that in and of itself is impressive, but is that as important as getting that first dragon? I don't know. I feel time will tell.
The LJL, to be honest, the Dasher might be in trouble here.
Dasher could be in a lot of trouble right here. Arya is going to get that chain, but not going to follow it up for the kill. Meanwhile, up top, we see another play, and already Zenit is gone. Too much damage from Ebby, and Corporal could do nothing but stand and watch. Back towards the mid lane, it looks like Dasher stayed around maybe a little bit too long. Arya looking for it. One combo would bring Dasher down, and there's not a lot of mana on this Orianna. Back up, slowly getting there in Tussle, but not going to get there in time, and Dasher finally pulls away.
Yeah. So what's happening right now actually, we'll look at the replay. So what happens? Oh, Zenit decides to overstay for one more wave in front of the minions. Against the Nautilus, you gotta hide behind them, bro. Like that's how you get out of that alive.
Yeah, not respecting the party bush. And unfortunately, in this situation, Party Bush came to Zenit and partied a little bit too hard. Appaman, now under tower, has been getting harassed quite a bit by Utapon here. 2 platings gone. Could be seeing the third one go as well. And there is not much this Gwen can do.
No, it's a survival game for Apperman down there right now. The lane swap, I don't feel like was his decision necessarily, but I like the decision overall. Before the lane swap took place, the Hawks were losing in CS across the board. So what this was designed to say is, okay, as it is, we are not surviving, well, the game. We need to get CS onto our carries, and the way we do that is we look at, okay, who needs the farm? Well, Zenit absolutely needs to get that farm. Zenit needs to be able to get those key items. So we're going to lane swap. Apperman is just going to have to suffer, but that's just what some top laners have to do. You know, it's like the old days. Do you remember the old days of like double jungling?
Yes.
Like that's kind of what this is for.
I'm a Dyrus fan.
You're Dyrus.
All right, that says everything you need to know about my interpretation of how the top lane is played.
Yeah, well, Apperman might be receiving some Dyrus love though, because look who's going to arrive in lane.
Yeah, I mean, this looks about right. Fortunately, though, for Appaman, able to spot out on that vision right there, we'll back away for now. Tower does go down. It's an interesting game thus far too, because I do agree that's what the Hawks were looking to do, was sort of like try to get that bot lane back in it. They did so abandoning that dragon pressure, and yet DFM didn't capitalize on that dragon pressure, I suppose, until 13 and a half minutes where they do finally secure that first Ocean Drake. But it's also because they didn't really need to. They kind of had the ability to take that at that leisure. And by sort of matching that rotation, I now see what they were going for. They were still able to keep the Hawks down. So it was a proactive play by the Hawks, yes, but the end result didn't really pay out in their favor.
Yeah, and look at the gold right now on this chart here. Not a single member of the Hawks is ahead of their opposite number on the side of Detention FocusMe in terms of just gold accumulation. And that's a mixture from the farming, as well as even though the Hawks made that proactive lane swap, they're just not able to match Detention FocusMe in terms of laning power. And that is obviously a bit of a problem. Because if you can't survive, or go even, I should say, in the standard laning phase, you need to come up with creative ways to work around that, right? And that's what we saw with the
Yep.
lane swap. Hawks are saying this
But
isn't working, we can't stay like this.
But here's the problem that I have with the lane swap. The one lane that was going their way before was Oppaman in the top lane, and then they threw him to the wolves.
Welcome to being a top laner. That's what you like. That's just what top laning is nowadays, mate. You see, like, oh, I'm going really well. I'm up in farm, and your team's like, hey, we need you to go bot lane and suffer for the next 20 minutes. Have fun. You're like, but I'm winning lane. No, you go and suffer. That's top lane.
Yeah, if we're losing, you're gonna have to suffer too. We lose as a team, and while I appreciate the unity, I'm not sure the Hawks as a whole are gonna be healthy after this one right now. DFM still looking in pretty much complete control of this game. Case in point, an unchallenged Rift Herald to go with that unchallenged first Dragon. They once again seem to have control of the map right now. Each lane slowly accelerating that lead. DFM looking very clean at the moment.
Yeah, and we can already kind of see how this game is going for Detention FocusMe. And I must say, what has impressed me the most is Gang on this Nautilus. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, his hooks have been amazing. This guy has been roaming all over the map. He's been mid lane. He's basically roamed topside to contest a potential Herald play from Hawks. And now he's just vibing in mid lane with those early Moby boosters. Ebby and Tussle getting into it on the jungle there. But this will be the second turret of the game falling. And I feel like it's very, very appropriate to say with 2 towers gone already. Detention FocusMe are in a fantastic position. 5,000 gold at 17 minutes.
Yeah, they're sitting mighty comfortably. 2 towers ahead, 2 levels ahead as well when you look at Utapon compared to Zenit, and you know you're going to see that come into effect whenever a tussle does happen to break out around any of these neutral objectives right now. It's going to be really hard for the Hawks to find that entryway to sort of commit to any sort of fight. They kind of have to try and weather a storm, I feel like, and maybe hope for a misstep from DFM. But with the way how they are playing, DFM do feel like they can almost get away with a lot. In fact, looking for a tower dive perhaps up top right now. Dash has to be really careful here. Nice little dodge by Arya trying to lead him over to Steel, who is going to jump in for the play. The depth charges went down, but the timing not quite there for Dasher.
That was a little bit all over the place there for Detention FocusMe. They couldn't decide what play they were going for, so they decided to go for every play. They'd go for the poke, they'd go for the dive, they'd go for the one member who's meant to be there for the dive but decides they're going to walk out anyway because they're just not feeling it, you know? But at the end of the day, Dasher gets out alive. Doesn't even have to burn anything too big. But the concern is, again, look at the itemization coming in here for the Hawks. We have 2 fully completed mythics. You've got, oh, give us a second. Actually, Ebby and Appleman just string it. So, you guys okay down there?
Oh, teleport now. Okay, now this gets interesting. Oh, that's a swing and a miss from Appleman. And now you're in trouble. Arya's just going to swallow that Gwen alive. So much damage in so little time. And just in time, too, with the dragon spawning in under a minute. Yes, DFM are going to lose top tower, but I think that's a trade well worth it.
Yeah, and I'm picking Appleman. I love the idea of the play, but the problem is just straight up itemization. Your opponent, Ebby, has a mythic, you don't. Those mythics are so powerful, especially for the likes of the Gwen, because it gives you the ability to sustain in the fights against the Renekton, as we're seeing. Like Vigil coming out.
I'm not sure I'm feeling this one. That's the box used as well, so 2 bot laners ultimates no longer in play, just as the dragon starts to spawn, and I hate to say it, Midnight, well, I kind of love it as well. That should be another dragon going over to DFM.
Yeah, I don't. The Hawks can't contest this one just straight up. There's nothing they can really do in this
Look at the
situation. They are
vision.
falling further and further behind. Hell, as you said, they can't even enter their blue
No.
side jungle right now on the side of the Hawks. If they try to, well, it's going to go rather badly for them. And the problem is that coming up soon is Baron. Now, I do not expect a 20-minute Baron. That's a bit on the confidence side of things. But with the way that the Hawks have been playing this game, their base is not going to last the tail of the time. They're like, again, we're making you're making like Lord of the Rings jokes with gang. So all I'm gonna say is that in about 5 minutes time, if this game continues the way it is, the Hawks' base will look very much like Helm's Deep, broken in half.
Yeah, you just got to hold out for the Riders of Rohan, right? They're going to come. Trust. They'll arrive eventually, maybe at that 40-45 minute mark, which is a
Oh
fair
no.
while away. Still, though, going to cut off Abaman's escape right into the box. Actually, he's able to jump over it, but there are 4 members of DFM here. Sorry, 3. Still, Shaco clone, he counted 3 as a half, perhaps. Either way, end result the same. Abaman goes down. Return play happening up top. Dasha looking for Arya. Does get the flash, but does not get the kill.
Yeah, and I think that it's only a flash burnt. Typically, when you send 3 people on one half of the map away from the Baron, it's start Baron immediately, and that's what the Hawks are doing. And then immediately realize, crap, we guys, we can't do that. We haven't got the firepower to punish them for that objective. So you need to, someone needs to be bot lane, but Hawks are faffing around the Baron and the blue buff.
Yeah, a blue buff that they do secure. Tussle was able to get it as they try to make a hasty exit. This is why Ebby going to town on that bot side tower right now. Has teleport available as well. Should a fight break out. Instead, Opperman has to come back and try and deal with this Renekton, who at one stage had an advantage over. I dare say that wouldn't be the case now. Still, though, Ebby, quite happy with that push, will be looking to reset. Why? Well, a Baron fight could happen at any given moment as long as DFM is sitting around that pit looking for that key pick to really push the game heavily, well, towards the end, I suppose.
Yeah, and the problem for Hawks is that they don't really have a choice in, well, how do we scout this out here? Because you've got the quote unquote standard now for Tussle's Hecarim, which is the Divine Sunder, which is, standard for what you bring in a Hecarim nowadays. But you do not have a member of your team who can face check a bush. Because Corporal isn't really going for a tanky build either. Look at their itemization here. I think that's building towards a Shirelli, if memory serves me right. So you're not really having a member who can face check. Meanwhile, Steel can face check with a Shay clone. Like,
I mean,
how
that
are you
is the
meant to secure
clone. It's
vision?
the Shay clone. That's the Shay clone.
Yeah. Yeah, so like, how are you meant to secure vision against a team that literally has a 6th man who can go and die for the cause?
I mean, it's rough. It's rough out there, and even if you aren't afraid of the Shay clone, there also is gang on that Nautilus who's just jamming up all those choke points as well that you want to be nowhere near, because the follow-up damage between this poke Varus as well as a LeBlanc means you get caught out, you're done. Like, there's no debate to be had, and it's a tough situation for the Hawks, who just cannot step forward into anything. That vision, which was supposed to be so vital for them, felt heavily negated just by the Shaco pick alone. And they are really feeling that effect. For the most part, this game, their jungle has been constantly warding up, and they've never really been able to rotate or move anywhere without being spotted. This has allowed DFM to always stay that one step ahead. And now, after one more reset from that blue side, the waves did continue to push quite heavily. You've got an itemed up DFM now in position. They're going to be looking for that fight. And if the Hawks make one mistake, that's their base cracked open.
Yeah, and it's a 6,000 gold difference between these two teams, and that is just the real difficult situation. Again, I can't overemphasize this enough. Look at the middle lane. Arya has 2 fully completed items, the Sorcerer's Boots, and a needlessly large rod.
Oh.
Dasha has got a Seraph's Embrace, and that is it. That's such a massive difference between these two mid laners in terms of just sheer damage output.
I mean, and then you look at the champions on top of that as well, and the end result is DFM can just walk up, take that mid tower, and walk away, and the Hawks just have to stand back and take it right now. They're not equipped to deal with this pressure at the current stage. They need to wait for that misstep, which DFM just don't seem to be making now. Perhaps they can try to make a proactive play up top right now, but with that vision in control, you can see the blue pings immediately coming down onto Tussle. they can't go anywhere without being spotted. Oppamen tries to get some vision in their own jungle, but immediately the rotation comes through. You see all those blue heads making their way down there. It feels like the Hawks, every answer they try to come up with is just shut down before it even starts.
And the Hawks are trying to make a play onto a LeBlanc, which really concerns me here because LeBlanc is really difficult to lock down and kill because that's the nature of her champion. She is very agile, very safe,
Oh,
and now they haven't got
Appa's.
anyone in the bottom lane.
Yeah, this is a bit of one of those, desperation holdbacks. A little bit of a bluff that does pay out as Ebby and gang do back away for now, well before the cavalry does arrive. Yet, no one's leaving the jungle anytime soon. Not when there's a third dragon up for grabs. Gang and Steel going to make their way down. There should be yet another uncontested dragon. That's 3 for 3 for DFM, and they show no signs of slowing just yet.
Yeah, once again, all this posturing on the bottom half of the map here for Detention FocusMe means that the Hawks have no world of getting vision down there. Like, who is meant to be able to sneak past all of the DFM wards from the side of Hawks to actually get any vision on their half of the jungle? Like, to the point where, look, again, they've been forced to abandon their blue buff. The fact that they can't even ward at their own blue buff for the side of the Hawks is really telling of just they're not allowed to go anywhere unless it's a three-man unit.
Well, you know what you do then, Midnight? You
What do you
say,
do?
let's just go for the Baron and see what happens. Roll the dice. Come on, roll them, roll. Nope. Okay, no, we're retreating. All right, we're playing it smart still. We're gonna back. We're not gonna play that dangerous game. I was hoping, but probably the smart choice right now. You do want to wait for that mistake, wait for that misstep. Perhaps Hawks still holding on that they can get that dream team fight scenario. Not looking to force the issue. Probably the smarter thing considering, Oppamen was down bot and they would lose that team fight quite horribly had it come down to that. But, sometimes you just got to believe and try.
Well, the problem is the Hawks is, could they do Baron? Absolutely. Can they do Baron and get out alive without Detention FocusMe finding them? Absolutely not. And that's probably the biggest problem for them because finally, Dasha has 2 items. We're seeing Zenit having 2 completed items with the Infinity Edge. Well, I assume that's Infinity Edge. At least it could still be a Bloodthirster. Well on the way. But the problem is that they are still behind in tempo, and more importantly in tempo is vision. They can't see what's going on. Again, they do not have a member of their team who is able to walk up and go find out what's going on, because all it takes is one wrong bushwalking and you've been slapped in the face with a Nautilus hook. And the ideal member is Corporal, who still, at 26 minutes, does not have a mythic.
It's rough out here as Arya's looking for that play on the Zenit, who has to sort of barely escape. All of the shields were put on to Aphelios, and somehow Zenit did get out alive. Still, though, on the hunt, DFM, they control the jungle, and they are just daring the Hawks to step through. Meanwhile, Oppamen actually able to find a tower down bot, and that's a nice grab in all, a little bit of boost. Oh, my. Piercing Arrow does half of Dasher's health.
Yeah, Dasher has no physical resistances, no buildings towards that Zhonya's. I think that's maybe what's coming up next, but that's not the problem. Like, the harassment coming out from the Varus is annoying you, but the biggest problem is just how far behind your team is in terms of gold. It's slipped from 6,000 to 7,000 gold now in favor of Detention FocusMe, and look at the vision on the top half of the map. There is nothing that the Hawks have, which means that at any point that DFM wanted to say, hey, we're starting Baron right now, what can the Hawks do? The answer is really not Unipon.
That's an awkward walk. That's an awkward,
That's the walk of shame.
Someone's not popular in high school right now. They're gonna make him take that long road. That said, DFM just sort of waiting for someone to step a little bit too deep. Could be Tussle, although Tussle did spot out Steel, so now Hawks should be aware that DFM hasn't completely reset. The bot lane did, though. Unipon and Gang each coming back now. Another Clawfield Hammer for Unipon, so extra bit of cooldown reduction to really spam those arrows out there in case we get an extended Baron dance. It's all about the positioning right now. Can the Hawks find something, anything, or is the vision control just too much? Can DFM continue to just tighten this chokehold over that red side?
Well, so far it's continuing. DFM need to continue squeezing the vision out. That's how you do the Baron dance properly. You push in the mid wave, you push in the top wave. You walk into the top half of the jungle, you clear vision up to the raptor bush, which is the one we can see the vision in, and the bush above it. I can't remember the name of that bush. But that's what. Oh
Uh,
god, Appleman, what's going on?
Oh, teleport coming through, though. If Appleman can stay alive, he cannot. And now this teleport is a bit of a death sentence for Dasher, who actually is able to get away. Shockwaving Ebby back in, but not enough damage to really secure a kill just yet. As we see DFM again just establishing control around that
Ooh.
Baron. Chains of Corruption burned for nothing. A little bit of a lucky break for the Hawks. Yet still, you get this underlying feeling that at any given moment, apparently that moment is now, DFM could just take that Baron and, well, they're going to pull the trigger. They're going to get that Baron. Maybe in response, you get Ebby. Tussle is going to be looking forward, tries to cut off any escape, and yep, able to knock him back with the Flay. Box slow as well, and the kill goes over to Zenit. Great and all, but now Baron's going to fall for DFM.
Yeah, and the thing you've got to remember with a play like that is it's a conscious decision from the Hawks here. They said to themselves, look, that's absolutely fine of a trade. We are going to give up the Baron, not only for the kill onto Evie, but also for this dragon here. This delays the game by at least another 5 minutes because Soul and Elder, actually you could argue 10 minutes because it is not an ocean soul, sorry, a dragon, oh my god, a wind soul, speed soul, whatever you want to call it. So it delays the game by at least 10 minutes, but I'm not sure that 10 minutes of time against a Baron up Detention FocusMe is going to be enough.
It's every little bit that you hope counts, right? For the Hawks, I mean, it's the only play they had available for them. They're able to get it. Maybe they can use it to extend the game. More likely than not, though, if they lose a fight while this Baron buff is available, not only is that inhibitor's down, that's threat of the Nexus going as well. So they still need to play these next 3 minutes very, very cautiously. 2 minutes, I should say. As you can see, once more, DFM back into their opponent's jungle, back to play that pick game, that vision game, and it's so scary for the Hawks as you never know where Steel's going to be, currently stealing away those Krugs. Tussle actually is able to steal one back with use of the Smite. Appleman needs to be cautious here, backs away from the farm, and that's going to be painful because you see those Baron-empowered minions, and you do know what's coming, and it's a lot of pain.
Yeah, and it's really on Zenit, on this Aphelios, to really do a lot of that wave clearing there. The Baron minions are fine when you look at the Orianna and the Gwen, who are going to try and clear it. So Zenit's going to be happy with that one, though, because look at Zenit's itemization. 3 fully completed items, the Infinity Edge now coming in as that 4th. This Aphelios can carry the fight, but you've got to be careful because Arya will be prowling for them, and the Shake-Clone getting some nice harassment down as the base is starting to crumble. And again, I'm getting kind of flashed. I'm getting visions of Helm's Deep right now, Formal, and the Hawks.
Look to the north! Look to the north! Look to the north, maybe help will arrive. You're going to be looking for Tussle in the cavalry. Actually, that's a death sentence that forces Arya over the wall. Corporal needs to bail out of this one, taken quite low as the first tower falls, at least the one in the base. Inhibitor going to be next as the Hawks desperately fly back to their own Nexus to get some health back. Inhibitor, it's low, and it will go down with those double Baron-empowered cannons. Meanwhile, back in the mid lane, a second breach, perhaps, as the death sentence from Corporal does not connect, but those cannon shots do. Base falling apart all around them. The Hawks powerless to do anything as Gang's looking to end the game. Gets that hook right onto Tussle, and the follow-up damage from Arya more than enough to get the kill. Box does make contact on the Steel, but there's no follow-up to secure the kill as Arya looks for the flank. The Flay does stop it. Steel somehow stays alive on a sliver of hope, or at least the Shake-Clone stays alive. The real Steel sitting back nice and comfy. The Hecarim is gone. That's no cavalry. That's no Riders of Rohan no longer available. The Orkai cut them off before they arrived to the scene. And now they're looking to blast this base open. Another death sentence cannot connect. As we see Gang looking for that dredge line. You still have the Change of Corruption available as well for Utapon. As the siege just continues. Another catch. This time it's on to Abamon. And look at that follow-up damage. Forces that Gwen to go golden. But underneath the tower, it's Zenit who is found. Tries to flash away to safety. But cannot make it back to the fountain. Another kill, this time by Utapon, as somehow the base is still standing, and it looks as if just enough was done by the Hawks to force DFM back, and the chase might be on. Abaman, though, does the smart thing and pulls away for now, although Tussle doing the aggressive thing and is looking to chase him down. Look to the north, because Tussle is here, but it turns out the Riders of Rohan were riding ponies instead. They can't find a kill in return.
What a drawn-out siege there by Detention FocusMe. They were really dedicated to that being the end. So let's take a look at it. Again, Baron Siege allows it to happen here. We're seeing Detention FocusMe, the Shade Clone's arrival, and the catch onto Tuzzle. Beautiful. One member down. There is nothing the Hawks can do to save them. But then this is where things get ugly. Arya, I don't know what's going on with Arya, but they have some obsession with Corporal. I don't know if they know Aussie casters the casting, because they can just tell it's hungry for there. And it's such a split focus now from Detention FocusMe. They're saying, okay, pushing the waves. We're seeing the flash from Dasher out of fear, which I mean, I kind of respect that. Steel's on a flank here. Arya's poking in for damage, going on to Corporal once again, which just seems really odd. Apartment finally gets caught out there thanks to the chains. But then again, look at Zenith. Look at Zenith here. Basically single-handedly clearing the minions. Now Detention FocusMe cannot dive whatsoever. They do finally get the snipe, but there are no minions. There is no health and mana on most of their members. They took so long to end the game that they actually just couldn't end.
Well, they should be able to end it now in theory, although still signs of life to the Hawks. They're only 10k down. I'm sure that's recoverable, especially with the Chains of Corruption missing wide to the right. So that's one key ultimate not available for DFM as the siege is about to begin, although it could be the Hawks pulling the trigger first. They're looking to dive in there. Nice shockwave catches too, and it looks as if they found two members to boot. That is Seal as well as the Seal clone gone. Still counting it as two. That is my rule. In the end, though, it is technically only one. Appaman needs to be a bit careful right here. Arya looking for that re-engaged Dasher there to keep the mid laner safe, and the Hawks continue to stay alive.
Yeah, and that kind of proactivity is exactly what you need to do when you're in this sort of situation. It's so easy when you are this far behind to be, it's fine, whatever. Let's just throw something at the wind and see if it sticks here. But you saw the setup from the Hawks. Everyone was in position. Zenit with the Gravitum throws out that Moonlight Vigil, catches multiple members, and instantly Shurelia's popped. Shockwave put in the position to catch two members, three if you count the Shade Clone from Steel. Getting them down there, it means that while the Dragon is secured, Baron, he said he'd taken it a bit slowly. And once again, the Hawks delay the end of the game. And I think right now that is the key thing to note. The longer you can take this game, despite our suffering, because it is rather late where it is rather late in the land down under, it's great for them. If you can stall this game out, this 10k gold lead means nothing at 50, 60 minutes because everyone's hitting 6 items.
Yeah, stream time, by the way, just to put it out there right now, we've passed the 5.5 hour mark for those of you keeping track at home. And for anyone who's been with us since the start, heart goes out to you. We're almost, at the halfway point. Still, though, this game does keep powering on. And you know what? The Hawks, they're starting to cut into that gold lead a bit. Before it was 10k, now it's only 7.5. But the later the game gets, the less that matters. More and more items being completed. And at this stage, the Hawks, they can go toe-to-toe nearly in a team fight, assuming they hit those right members. It's all about that survival game, and how much do they lose in the process while they wait for those inhibitors to spawn back. They have lost the Dragon's Soul, and they could be losing Tussle here as well, walking right into a bit of a trap. Has to use the Onslaught in order to escape, but are able to get out just fine. Yet, without that engage ability, it should be yet another Baron going to DFM.
Yeah, but maybe not. Tussle is still hanging around there with the smite, and I think the important person to keep eye on for this fight, Zenith. 5 items, Infinity Edge, everything ready to go when that fight does come up. That is, I think, just the most important thing is Dasher. I like how Dasher's posturing. Yeah, it's a super solid Baron here because it's just Steel. It's Steel and Gang. They don't have exactly.
Tussle's going to get back in time. Tussle's going to get back in time. Then again, you don't have that Onslaught available, but it doesn't matter. DFM actually forced off it. And now, for the first time, what I feel like in, about 25 minutes, I'm starting to believe perhaps the Hawks, maybe they can fight back in it because they get their inhibitors back as well.
Yeah, the inhibitor's coming up. Oh no, Appaman.
Well, or Appaman will get caught out, goes gold and trying to buy some time. People trying to race to him, but they will not get there. That's a nice pick for DFM, and with that, perhaps they can look to secure that Baron. Perhaps they can look to put in the final pieces of this game.
See, the thing is, I don't think that pick actually gives Detention FocusMe, well, anything. Yes, they get the kill. They might get some pressure on the side. Like, oh no, Zenith, please don't get caught. Okay, good. Woo! Panic arrest there. Okay, so Chains, but look at the cooldown. Look at that.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it was brought up before. I think it was like 25 seconds or something when it was showed on screen. It's a little bit ridiculous at this stage. So yeah, why not use it for poke, Midnight? Why not use your ultimate Chains of Corruption for poke? Or at least they're going to use it to start up this Baron. Although, take a look at the bush up above. Oh, wow, Tussle. the moment they walk in there is spotted out with a nice ward being placed, and a teleport as well means Tussle has to back away. It's to protect the ward in this situation. Tussle tries to get around, but the Chains of Corruption do hit. Piercing Arrow does damage, and with the depth charge, Tussle has to race all the way back. Baron is going to be secured by DFM, and now, as we approach that 40-minute marks, perhaps DFM can reset and look to end this game.
I don't think... Oh my god, what the hell is that shielding on Zenit? I don't think that DFM... I'm going to jinx it. Detention FocusMe, I should say, are in a good position to look to end, but they need to do it, well, soon. The Elder Dragon will be spawning soon, and they do, of course, always have that threat in their back pocket, but as much as the threat of the Elder Dragon is, you've got to remember that if Hawks can steal it, Zenit can basically 1v5 with this build path, especially because the Quicksilver Sash, the one threat to them, was Udapon's Chains of Corruptions, now irrelevant. So, yes, the Hawks only have 2 kills. Yes, the Hawks are down 10k gold. The Hawks need to win one team fight. And this game could turn on its head. There is every possibility that this could happen here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this could be the setup for that team fight. The Hawks are trying to defend this bot side tower, but again, you've got a mid lane pushing into an exposed inhibitor. Hawks are going to be aware, but still the Death Sentence is able to fight Steel, who is near.
Oh no, we got baited!
Cyclone, everybody. Everyone gets baited in that situation as more sieging happening. The bot tower does go down. Chains of Corruption doesn't connect, but again, you know, it's just realistically one minion wave, and it will be back up and available as Arya is able to take down that mid inhibitor. Gang finds the engage. Box goes out, but look at the burst damage coming out of Unipon. Already the front line for the Hawks is gone, as well as their chances for the comeback. Arya fights the back line, gets a double kill as Dasher as well as Abamen run for their life. 5v2, it's not gonna happen. It takes just over 40 minutes, but DFM finally close out this game. Just the formalities as we watch Abamen go golden just to see the Nexus fall in their own eyes. DFM advance to 3-3.
And that final breaking of the siege comes on the back of the king in that bottom lane. The return of the king, we taught it, gang. That Norda's hook connecting onto the AD carry of Hawks, and it was the final linchpin. They needed access to their AD carry. Without getting onto Zenit, the Hawks were in a great position, but the beautiful hook catches them, pulls Zenit in, and even with all the summoners available, pile on from Detention FocusMe, finally breaking the back of the Hawks, who, I must say, put up a hell of a fight for a team that I don't recall ever being ahead in gold compared to their opponents there. So a hell of a fight back coming in there for the side of the Hawks.
And while we can give the Hawks credit for that, I do need to turn that critical buy back over to DFM, because it felt like they had that game in control from roughly the 16-minute mark, and yet we go 40 plus with them never really losing that control. It was a long extended game, and I question, did it really need to be? Because it did feel like we were one team fight away from momentum completely shifting back in the Hawks' favor. So while, yes, you know, you look at this team and they walk away with a couple of wins feeling pretty good about themselves, but the cleanliness, not quite there yet. They're still not back in that form. It was a good step back towards it, but I feel like this team still has a bit more to be desired.
Yeah, but guys, we were going to a short 1 to 2 minute break, and then we'll come right back to take a look at, of course, Detention FocusMe as well against the Hawks. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone, to the LJLOU. I'm still Midnight, still joined by Formal to take a bit of another look at Detention FocusMe up against the Hawks in a 40 plus minute, I want to call it a survival series, Formal, because the Hawks had a, let's call it a pretty interesting strategy where they were struggling in the laning phase. Their mid and their bottom lane just weren't able to go toe for toe. And so, and I know you're quite critical of this, they did a bit
Mhm.
of a lane swap.
Yeah, they did that lane swap, and the only reason why I wasn't so much of a fan of it was just because it felt like the top lane was the one lane going for them, but they were so desperate to try and get Zenit involved. And we did start to see towards the very tail end of the game what can happen when Zenit starts to get those items completed, but they did so at the expense of Apaben, the one lane going in their favor, being put in sort of that loose situation. So yeah, it was a game of survival, but it was kind of like they dug their own grave almost in this situation where they opted to start off playing in this hole. And maybe it's because they know that at the current state right now, DFM, they haven't really been digging holes themselves with a proper shovel. They've been using perhaps a little garden spade, but that little garden spade will still eventually bury you after 40 minutes of nonstop sort of piling on, which is kind of what
Hmm.
we got right here. It was sort of a weird situation where both teams kind of leave me sort of questioning where they properly stand. On one hand, the team that was supposed to be proactive, that we thought coming into this, tried to make the proactive play. It just, in my opinion, was kind of the wrong one. The results do show for it. And DFN, when given a massive advantage early, still had to go 40 plus minutes in order to finish out this game.
Yeah, but I must say the 40 plus minutes that it took DFM to close out this game was partly a few errors on DFM side of closing out, but I must say I'm more impressed by the Hawks' survival tactics in order to
Yes.
survive this laning. Like they managed to, oh, it was so well played. Unfortunately, we don't have the clip of it, but they managed to hold on to their base for as long as possible. That ridiculously long, drawn out siege where DFM lost all of their minions, couldn't properly siege. I think they only got one or two kills on the back of it, and then were forced to back up, delaying the game again. And there was another team fight bottom side. It's just some sign after sign after signs of life from a team that was behind in gold from, I want to say, basically the start of the game
Hmm.
till basically the end. And it took them forever to lose, which I think is a hell of a talent. If you can take a team like DFM and drag a game out to 40 something minutes just buying time, that's a fantastic sign of life, saying that in bad situations, you're not just going to roll over and die. You're going to
No.
fight tooth and bloody nail to hold on to what you think is rightfully yours, which in this case would have been the game win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the resolve that we saw out of, the Hawks in this game was absolutely phenomenal. But at the same time, looking at that same fight, we all each couldn't help but be a bit critical of how DFM started to sort of approach it as well. They felt scattered when it came to closing that game. And I do like to say, good teams get great leads, great teams and good games in a sense. And we didn't really see that ending blow come out of DFM. Eventually, the attrition just kind of won out for them, where that massive gold lead just became a bit too much for the Hawks to hold on to. They got a little bit desperate. They overcommitted. I believe we can bring up that last fight, perhaps,
Mm.
as well to sort of show what I'm talking about right here. But it felt like the Hawks were one fight away, and they think they get it right here onto Steel. Watch
Zenit.
Corporal and watch the Shea clone as I think this happened just after it. Yeah, they had
Oh,
just blown everything on the Shea clone, thinking that was the real deal, and that left them exposed. So it was a misstep in the end by the Hawks that do wind up costing them everything. But up until that point, it really felt like the momentum was shifting back in the Hawks' favor.
yeah, Hawks fought like hell to try and survive that game, but at the end of it, they just were not able to match DFM. They couldn't match them in the laning phase. That's why we saw the swap. They struggled to match them in the mid game. That's why they were behind on dragons, behind on turrets, behind in building up that 10k gold lead. And they were behind at the end of the game. They fought like hell, but they were not able to stay safe from the LJL powerhouse that is Detonation Focus Me. So back and fight like hell. That is the determination, resolve you need in a team. Because when you get to the nitty gritty later in the season, hell, if you get a tiebreakers or a finals, this is the team that is going to push you and break you in a best of five series later on down the track. And yes, I'm a Hawks fan, so I'm maybe a little bit biased in Saints, but I cannot wait to see this team in a best of series just drag their opponents down to the dirt, kicking and screaming. It's going to be something glorious.
How can you claim to be a Hawks fan without even wearing the Hawks colors? All right, the yellow and black. I'm just gonna bring that up there. All right, I'm just gonna call you out a little bit, but no, I have to agree. The result, realistically, though, from both these teams being able to finish that one out was definitely a fun one to watch. We now, we're getting to that interesting stage of the day, though, where we get to soldier on the second half of these streams. I'm keen for more League of Legends at this stage, and that was a nice little warm up, a nice small 40+ minute drawn out game. Where can we go from here?
Well, our next games is going to be a blast from the past, the games that were played a little bit ago. So our first game is going to be V3 facing off against Burning Core, which will be I think, an exciting game, honestly. I think it is a good sign to see where Burning Core is standing currently, because Burning Core hasn't looked as weak as they did at the start of the year. But the question is obviously, have they managed to pick up their game from what we saw previously? Because they've got a win on the belt board, but is one win enough? The answer is no. And then we'll get to see them once again for formal you and I's third game of the night, and it will be up against Axis, a team that is just sort of powering through really strong opponents. I'm curious to see if Burning Core can slow them down, if at all. But we will go to a little bit of a short break, guys, and when we come back, V3 and Burning Core will be battling head to head. So don't go anywhere.